and I think that explains the reasons why we have started late, and still I think people are on their way. So I think being the first speaker has its own advantage and disadvantage. Advantage that I can speak for on, and disadvantage that speaking to some few chairs, vacant chairs. Let me just begin by introducing Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, which is a think tank and capacity building organization which is established by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Now, I think after this Companies Act has come into existence, which we have taken almost more than 60 years to restructure, to revise, to make it new after 1956, is in news, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The Companies Act 1956 has been worked upon, and now like it is in the form of Companies Act 2013. There are around 470 sections in it. Some of them are governed by rules, some of them are not directly implementable. Out of 470 sections, one section 35, which speaks about corporate social responsibility, has created that kind of furore, that kind of chaos which everyone is talking about out of 470 sections. So I have a question for you. Do you know how many companies are registered in India? How many companies are there which are registered with Ministry of Corporate Affairs? Any idea? Yes, please. Close to a lakh. 2 lakhs. Anyone? More guesses? According to the last year, around 13 lakh companies are registered in India, out of which 1.5 are defunct. They are not filing. Functional companies are around 11.5 lakhs. Out of which, if I may ask, how many companies are falling in this so-called corporate social responsibilities ambit? Any idea? Close to 70. I think Singh Saab has done his homework well. Nobody else has come prepared. It's called a workshop. 6,000? Any more guesses? Any more guesses? It's around 16,000 companies according to the data which is there at the MCA 21, which is the data of the companies registered. So 16,000 companies out of say 11.5 lakhs, not even 2%. So much of hullabaloo for 2%. 2% companies, 2% spent, and corporate social responsibility. My journey started with this corporate social responsibility when government took back and noticed. Actually, that happened in 2007 when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji, he just released something called 10-point social charter, which was based on Millennium Development Goals, and he said that it is high time that corporates, because the motive or the objective of any corporate is to make profit. When you are establishing any promoter, if you ask what is your objective, he'll say my objective is to make profit. So when we ask him to spend something on social responsibility or something on a development initiative, definitely they do not like it, because their objective is very clear. I have set up a business, I am putting my blood and sweat into it, I am getting my people there, so I have to make profit, for which I have established my company. When Prime Minister Manmohan Singh released this 10-point social charter, there was a little, it created news. After that, Ministry of Corporate Affairs passed out an intent document in 2009. That was an intent document on corporate social responsibility. I still remember in Vigyan Bhavan, full house, 1,000 people sitting in the Vigyan Bhavan hall, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil ji, who was then president, she took out this small, very small document, which was just few pages, which just described the intent of CSR. When she released it, she said this is a very powerful document which is going to create a history. That time itself it was anticipated. And the house was having, big people like Rahul Bajaj. They were like, I can name a few, who, because they came into news, but not for corporate social responsibility, for all other things. That time, that was a time when this sting operation stigma was there, and people said that sting operation should be conducted or not, all those things. So That time it again created a little, buzz around in the hall, and people said, no, nothing is going to happen. This is government's responsibility. Corporate social responsibility is government's responsibility. The word corporate should be removed from there. It should be government social responsibility. Anyways, after that document was passed, ministry again did not sit quiet. They thought that we will do a thorough stakeholder consultation. We will reach out to corporate, we will reach out to other stakeholders and find out how this corporate is, going to help in social development, in social initiatives. In 2011, in 2010, I have some colleagues from public sector undertaking here. Again, in 2010, DPE guidelines came. Department of Public Enterprises issued guidelines in which CSR was mandated for public sector undertaking. They were told that make profit, but at the same time spend from the profit. You have to do it, it is mandatory, and you need to also disclose what you have done. In 2011, ministry came up again. Ministry was working towards private sector, towards the corporate sector. Ministry came up with a document called National Voluntary Guidelines on Social, Economic and Environmental Businesses, Responsibilities of Businesses in India. When NVGs was released, again, the people like the corporates, private sector especially, public was doing it, government was doing it, private sector said, we do CSR, we know our responsibility. Who is government to teach us our responsibility? We have done our responsibility, we have been doing it. Business responsibility is something which flows in our blood, which is a part of our DNA. How can you say that there is no responsibility? SEBI, that is Security and Exchange Board of India, which is the Financial Regulatory Authority of India, passed a notification that the top listed companies, 100 listed companies, should disclose what they are doing towards the business responsibility on a disclosure format which was made out of this National Voluntary Guidelines. So 2011, 2012, this was passed. By that time, the corporate social responsibility had already found its place in the Section 135. It used to be called Clause 135 because Companies Act was not passed. The stakeholder consultations began there. Top 100 companies was asked to report on what they are doing towards business responsibility. During those stakeholder consultations, because in any country, especially in a country like India, which is a democratic country, and any legislation evolves through a participative process, we had to go down to all the stakeholders, be it government, be it NGOs, be it corporate, be it public sector undertakings, and we asked them what is their view on this aspect of corporate social responsibility. Since I have been a part of this journey from the beginning, and I keep telling everyone, I have seen varied reactions of corporates. Right from negative, as I said, they said, no, it is government responsibility. It took us very much efforts to tell corporate that this is not, government cannot take up this responsibility alone. Because, of course, government, any idea how much money government is spending on development initiatives? I can't even count those zeros. How lakhs and lakhs of rupees, crores of rupees, lakhs and crores of rupees. Those zeros cannot be even counted. But in a country where our ex-Prime Minister can stand on a public dais and can say that it's only 15% which reaches the beneficiary, we know what kind of system we are living in. So when this happened, there was total opposition from corporate. They said, no, we are already, many of them were doing. I'm not saying corporates were not doing it. Many of the corporates, houses which are established ones, which are renowned ones, they were doing CSR in one form or the other. But at the same time, nobody wanted to be dictated. Why I'm telling you this history is because it is how we went towards building that compliance. So they said, we don't need this, we'll wait, okay, let us see, we'll cross the bridge when the water comes, because this is what had happened. And as I said, there are various stages to it. Once you have to go through in a lower house and then the upper house, and this particular section of the act was governed by rules, so draft rules, Then draft rules were put on public domain for views, for comments and feedback, and then the final rules, and then again, fortunately or unfortunately, the government was changing, and then the budget session was there. So all these were milestones, if I may say so. So now is the time when I think this conference is taking place at the right time, when there is a CSR landscape in the country, where we have certain section of corporates who are mandated by government, who has passed out the mandate, and there are rules which says how to go about it. So this is just a brief history on what exactly is the compliance, or how this compliance evolved through the various processes. The evolution of CSR, as I said, profit to philanthropy, to strategic community investment, to corporate citizenship, to section 135 where we are right now. So what I said just now is these milestones which we have achieved now. We have just gone into section 135, which has become a part of the compliance. What we told corporate is, okay, you are doing CSR, very good, but the provisions of CSR in the Companies Act is to facilitate, is to create that enabling environment which is needed to just strategize the entire concept of CSR. So from staff welfare to welfare of staff families, to immediate community development, to nation building. So why I say nation building is because whenever we go international, whenever we have international stakeholders, they are all waiting and watching us. You know, they are, because India is the first country which has passed on this legislation. So there has been varied reactions from international stakeholders also. They are saying, okay, let us see, whichever country this has been passed, you know, has not been very successful. So let us see. And I keep telling my NGO friends or implementing agency friends also, in case if you see the trend, the foreign grant makers, the funders, now they are, you know, slowly reducing their support also. India is not anymore being looked at as, you know, underdeveloped country. So foreign grants are being stopped. The NGOs who have been working on a grant-based approach, they need to change their approach. Now they need to come to an open market approach. Yes, you have, you know, competitors, you have people who are corporates who are funding you, and we know that in case if a corporate is spending even 1 rupee, they would want worth back at least 1 rupee, if not more. So the NGOs will have to pay in that case, like how they are going to do it. So these are the various milestones I talked about in government and CSR. In 2007, PM 10-point social charter, voluntary guidelines, DPE guidelines, national voluntary guidelines, to SEBI mandate, to business responsibility, to PSC guidelines, to section 135 where we are today. These are the various milestones which, how the Act evolved through. Companies Act, Companies Bill 2013 was approved by Lok Sabha on 18th August 2012. 8th August 2013 it was approved by Rajya Sabha. Gazette notification came on 30th August 2013. 27th February 2014 rules came, and as I said, every process had a draft process and then the final process, because every draft was put up on the public domain. Stakeholders' comments and feedback was invited, they were received, incorporated, and that is how the final act has come into the picture. The CSR provisions, as I said, CSR is nothing new. In India, if you see, right from pre-independence day or pre-industrialization day, CSR has been there. Every person in every family is being told how, like from the childhood, how to give back to the society, how to give back to the, be it charity, be it religious reason or any reason, but we are told how to give back to the society. So every religion has this giving back to the society concept. Every country, like every community has, but corporates were told that yes, you may be doing CSR, but these provisions which are included as mandatory aspect, these provisions which are included as mandatory aspect will provide as a facilitator, because it is not that you are working only for your, like normally the CSR which was existing in companies was either for staff welfare or for their community, like community surrounding them, or it was just, you know, to keep good HR practices. So they were like told that this is just to reach out to poor, marginalized and deprived sections. It is to foster collaboration and synergy so that they can work together, and to just convert the checkbook philanthropy. It is not just one time or one-off activity, but put it in a project or program mode so that it has the right impact. So the size of the CSR space includes approximately 16,000 companies, as I said, 18 to 20,000 crores of Indian rupees, not even 2% of, you know, government funds. And around 30,000 directors. That means like 16,000 companies will have to have at least 3 directors on board. So I've just taken a combined figure. It may be one director may be sitting on many boards. So around 30 we are targeting. So what I'm trying to say is the CSR has come from backroom to boardroom. Now what does the mandate says? The Act says. The Act says that every company, these 3 categories they have defined. One is either net worth of rupees 500 crore or more, turnover of rupees 1000 crore or more, or a net profit of rupees 5 crore or more during any financial year. When we say financial year, it has been estimated as 3 years, 3 preceding financial years, will have to constitute a CSR committee. This is how the CSR has come from backroom to boardroom. The board has to constitute a committee flowing out of the board now. The Corporate Social Responsibility Committee will have 3 directors, one of which will be an independent director. Step 1, number 1, constitute a committee. Second, get 3 people on that committee, and out of which one has to be an independent director in case if yours is a listed company. If it is not a listed company, then any 2 directors or any 3 directors, depending on number of directors you have. And they should create or formulate a CSR policy. Now many companies said we already have CSR policy. Okay, sure, CSR policy. Like any other policy, they have a 2 or 3 sentence policy. We undertake, we promise to undertake this, we will do this, we will do that. But this CSR policy will be different from other policies in the sense that it has to have a list of activities annexed and a promise that these activities which we have identified will be undertaken by the company with a robust monitoring mechanism in place. So the company will not only just have to, they cannot do any promise which they cannot fulfill. They have to identify the projects, they have to give a notification or a undertaking that they are going to undertake it, and also to put a monitoring mechanism in place. So who is going to do it? That CSR committee which has been selected out of the board. They'll also recommend activities and the amount of expenditure and monitor the CSR policy. They will also disclose this composition of Corporate Social Responsibility Committee on their website and in their policy. And I'm not, covering that section 134 which talks about the penalty, the penalization of in case if it is not done. So in case, like, nobody would be happy to become a independent director who opens his mouth just to have kajus and tea. He'll have to actually now he will be responsible. So any director for that matter, because there is, like, if you see clause section 134, it talks about penalty, it talks about even imprisonment, and I'm sure my friends here will throw more light on it. So the committee, the policy says that they have to undertake that they will be spending, the board shall ensure that 2% of the average net profit of the company made during the 3 immediately preceding financial years will have to be spent towards corporate social responsibility. And these activities will be in the form of projects or programs. So that means any one-off activity, any intermittent activity is out. You need to put it in a proper project form. The role of the board is to formulate this CSR committee, approve it, approve the policy, disclose its content on the website and the report. Implementation has to be ensured, ensure 2% spend, and the last one is disclose in case if they have not done. That means mandatory disclosure for the reasons if the entire process has not been undertaken properly. So, when I said project or program, these are the components which one should have in the project or program. Why it has been, again I'll tell you why it has been insisted in the rules that it has to be project and program, because like as I said before also, government is doing a lot of activities, lot of projects, corporates are already doing a lot of projects, but in order to avoid any kind of wastage, in order to avoid any kind of duplication, in order to avoid any kind of wastage of the efforts, it was thought that the entire activity has to be in project form so that it can have the correct impact. I'll tell you, I would like to share a very interesting incident here. I was talking to this very big software company, hardware company who are into software also, a very big company. So I said, what do you do for your CSR? They said, we give out laptops. Okay, where do you give these laptops out to? To a village in Punjab. And when you check that village in Punjab, it doesn't even have electricity. What is the point of giving, laptops to a village where there is no electricity? That means it's a wastage of effort. You may be shelling out, lakhs of rupees, but it doesn't have any impact. So we said that baseline surveys must. That means need assessment. Whether the activity which you are going to undertake in that particular area does it need it or not? That is called baseline survey. The duration of the project, whether it has to be a sustainable project. It's not that you open a school, you just put all the students there and next year you're not able to sustain it, so all the teachers, you're not able to hire those teachers and the students' life is in doldrums. It should not be like that. So the duration of the project has to be thought about, amount allocated to the project in the current financial year as well as the total project, start date, end date, monitoring and documentation, and objective evaluation. Till now, there is no provision of any third-party assessment, but we recommend that the companies should go in for a third-party assessment so that, it's very easy to, beat our own drums and say that we are doing so well. But if it is, proved by a third party, it always helps. The project or the programs can be implemented in these three ways. The companies can do it directly in case if they have a competent CSR team, or it can be done through its own foundation or own NGO or any other NGO. NGO, when I say NGO, it means it has to be in the form of a trust, in the form of a foundation or a society or a Section 8 company. Only these four entities are called implementing agency. Social entrepreneurs, private limited companies are not are out. They are not there. Though we did recommend it to the ministry, but I don't know, it has been removed. They said it's only has to be a registered society, a foundation, a trust, or a Section 8 company, which should have an established track record of 3 years. These are the 7, this is the famous Schedule 7, which talks about the thematic areas, 10 thematic areas in which the corporate's projects or programs can be based. Eradication of extreme hunger and poverty, sanitation, health, education, special education, vocational training, women empowerment, gender equality, national heritage, art and culture, armed force veterans, environment, which includes agroforestry, ecological balance, soil conservation, water conservation, technology incubators, rural sports, Paralympic and Olympic, PM relief funds, rural development projects. So it is a very, if you will see, it is a very, very comprehensive list and covers almost all the initiatives. As I said, this particular act is governed by rules which is with effect from 1st April. So every corporate which is falling in this ambit, according to their profit or turnover or net worth, will have to start implementing it from 1st April. So every Indian company, it may be a foreign company also which is registered in India, has to have this provision, has to start following it. It says that surplus arising out of CSR project is not forming, shall not form the part of business profits of a company, and the projects or programs have to be only undertaken in India, not outside India. It also says that the foreign companies' profit and loss calculation would be according to section 381. So it is very important that the entire Companies Act has to be read properly. It is not just one section 135, but there are other sections also. And it also talks about the policy. As I said, the contents of the policy has to be, it has to have a list of CSR projects or programs which the company is undertaking. Under the Schedule 7, it has to be mapped with the Schedule 7, has to have a robust monitoring mechanism in place. It should just include all the expenses towards the, including the contribution of corpus towards the society, trust or Section 8 company. But any political party or political purpose, a party with political purpose, any contribution to that will not be allowed. Again, there is a very interesting anecdote to be shared here. In the draft rules, if you will see, it was written that any contribution to state relief fund or CM's relief fund or government was there. So when it was there, without even draft rule being finalized, many states, like I can name Chhattisgarh was there, Pondicherry was there, they had issued a government order saying that the entire money has to come into state relief fund, into the so then it was, you know, that time Mr. Sachin Pilot was the minister. He had to write to them that this is not legal, this should not be done, and that was removed from the draft format, and in the final format it was made very clear, in the final rules it was made very clear that no contribution to, any contribution to any political or political purpose is not considered as CSR. They also, like the rules also say that any activity undertaken in pursuance of the normal course of business or anything to be done for the employees of the business is not CSR, because that is with the profit motive or just becomes a part of the staff HR or welfare. The capacity building, of course, has been taken care of in the rules, and it says that 5% of your 2% profit can be spent towards capacity building of the organization as well as the implementing agency which you have selected to implement your projects. But it also says that it is not just, you know, a one-off activity. It has to be done through a institute which has an established track record of at least 3 years. It also encourages the collaboration. As I said, the provisions foster the collaborative efforts of companies. So in case if a company is not having that much, you know, money to be spent, they can collaborate with any other company and they can undertake projects or programs. In the same way, NGOs can also collaborate with each other and take up one big project. But they have to report separately. So what I've done is I have the entire, like I was told to give step-by-step strategy. So the entire implementation process I've put in these 9 steps, which every company has to undertake. So the step number 1 is to develop a CSR strategy and policy. As I said, this policy should have been ready by now. How many of you are corporate here? If I may ask anybody who has not made his the company's policy yet. Good, so it is there in place. The second is to operationalize the institutional mechanism after identifying the implementing agency, doing their due diligence, because as I said, you must have read it in the newspaper also, behind every 600 person there is an NGO or there is an implementing agency. Or if you go back to the data, 33 to 35 lakh registered NGOs. But I'm sorry to say, like many of them, they exist only in papers. This is the fact. You know, when you go and do the due diligence, you'll not find even the offices existing. So a due diligence system has to be in place so that you can do a due diligence of the NGOs, because whenever we go and talk in such forums, the corporates complain, or the corporates have this apprehension. What if we select an NGO and we give them money and they do not deliver? Then also will we go to jail? Like that jail thing is very interesting for them. So they ask, But the answer to that is, it depends on what kind of due diligence you are doing, what kind of verification you are doing, what kind of monitoring mechanism you have in place, what kind of communication do you have with them. So that operationalization has to be done in a proper form, the due diligence, and then the project development, which should include all those components I just spoke about. The project has to be approved by board. It is the duty of the CSR committee to put it on the board. The board has to approve it, and all these steps will have to have board resolution. The minutes should have the board resolution number. The project has to be approved by the board. The agreement has to be finalized once the project is approved. The project has to be implemented at the ground level. The monitoring mechanism has to be there in place. Duties of each and every CSR person. It may be the CSR head, it may be the foundation person, it may be the implementing agency, it may be the board member. Like, there may be many ways of going about it. The board members who are the part of project CSR committee can do it directly, can get it done through their CSR heads or CSR department, but that project monitoring and evaluation system has to be in place. Project impact assessment has to be done to see what is the impact. When you see the mandatory reporting format, it also talks about impact. And then the final and last but not the least is the final reporting and communication of your entire thing, which has to be a part of your report and has to be on the public domain. This is what we talk about. The end result is step number 9, which is the actual communication which you are going to do with the public on your public domain, and also to the government, which is like taking care of the compliance part or legislation. So that is all about the compliance. I'll be happy to take questions, but I think I have very learned people with me on the dais, so we'll take questions later. But before I leave, I'll just speak a little about National Foundation for CSR, which is established in April 2012 by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. I'm the convener of that National Foundation for CSR. Actually, it is a national platform which unites all the stakeholders, all the 3 actors who are going to play this game: the government, the corporate, and the implementing agency hub. So what basically we are doing is the capacity building or training and development. We have just started a 9-month course on certified professionals, and also creating a database of all the implementing agencies in order to facilitate the corporates, so that they can come to us, pick up from that list. We would have done the due diligence with us, and we can recommend that these are the implementing agencies who will do a good job. And extensive training for the CSR personnel, especially board directors, because they are also entering into an unknown territory, and they are supposed to be sensitized, trained, and told what exactly is their role and responsibility. Plus the NGOs also, who have to put their governance structure in place, who have to put all their, they have to pull up their socks in order to change their approach, as I spoke about before, from the grant base to open market, so that they know what they are delivering is up to the mark, and they can have a sustainable and a long-lasting relationship with corporates. So with that, I thank you all very much to have listened to me patiently.